if the music is too loud, blah, blah, blah. All right, so we're going to start in a couple of minutes. So we're going to wait until you join, settle in, grab some popcorn, whatever the hell you're doing before a stream. So I'm not sure if I should introduce Adam right now, or should we wait for people to join? I don't know what's better. Yeah, so I'm here with Adam. Probably most of you know Adam, and probably most of you are super excited for this Twitch stream, whatever you call it. I'm super excited about it. So let us know when you're in the chat. Let us know when you're watching Periscope, Twitch, whatever it is. Just come in the chat, say hi, just so we know there's enough people watching. We should be facing each other.
Yeah. I'll try.
Yeah, we should try to make it. All right.
I sent you a message on Twitter with a screenshot. I'm not sure if I'm seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing in the
probably
in the Zoom screen
in the
share.
Zoom thingy. Okay, let's fix that. Okay, do you see it now? If I bump it up a little bit, can you see it?
I see like the OBS window, it looks like. So I see like the chat on screen and some notifications on the left, and there's like 2 copies of the video.
Okay, just a second. I'll reshare my screen again, and we should be good to go. Share screen, window projector, share now. Is it better?
Yeah,
is it good?
That's better. Sweet.
All right, cool. Hi there, hi Cohen, hi Boxroom, hi Daniel. Looking forward to this. I'm also looking forward to this. As I said before on Twitter, I'm a Tailwind noob, like an absolute, like I have no idea about Tailwind. Like I know in general like how it works, but I've never tried it in a project, and I'm super excited to try it. Hopefully we're gonna clarify a bunch of things for you. We're gonna wait 2 more minutes because we said it's gonna start at 4:30, and then we're gonna start with the official proper introduction and everything.
Sounds good.
Just let us know meanwhile, people who have joined in early, just let us know if the audio levels are fine. If someone is louder than the other person, so Adam should say something.
Yeah.
Just
Let's
check.
see. Talk. Test. Hopefully people think it's fine. We'll see.
You can see people's chat, right?
Yep, I can see them showing up at the bottom, so that's good.
All right, cool. As they said, don't bring up any CLI things, because I'm gonna snap. So no CLI discussions on this stream, all right?
Sounds good.
All
Cool.
right, the chat looks a little bit cut off.
It's a very complicated streaming setup you have here.
Very, very, very complicated streaming setup. It's getting on my nerves. Hopefully one day I'm gonna get it 100% fixed. How douchey is it of me, people who are watching the stream? Like, I'm streaming with Adam, but down here in the banner you just see Kitze links, the Kitze, and so on. I'm gonna leave links for you to follow him on all the social networks and stuff at the end. Maybe I can do it now. I think you're twitter.com/Adam. Wait, is it? How do you pronounce your surname? Wathan?
Adam Wathan. Yeah.
Adam Wathan.
Yep.
All right.
That's pretty close.
Adam Wathan on Twitter. Then you should find all the other links. For the next time. Hopefully I'll have a banner with both of the speakers. All right, it's 4:30. Cool. I think we can finally start. So thank you, Adam, for joining me. I really appreciate you spending the time teaching an absolute noob about Tailwind.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How's it going? What's the time in your time zone actually? I have no idea.
10:30 in the morning.
10:30 in the morning. Okay, so
still
you
got
should
the
be
whole day ahead of me. Yeah.
All right, you should be fresh. It's the end of the workday for me. It's like 4:30 p.m. But I'll still try to be super hyped for Tailwind. Welcome everyone in the chat. Louis Seabot says, hi guys, huge fail of Tailwind, great. Your audio is finally good, kids. Adam is slightly less loud. So if Adam can bump his microphone just a little bit.
Bump it up a little bit. Just
a little bit.
Let's go. Yeah. Maybe we go to like there. See if that's better.
Yeah, I think, I can hear you better. So probably they should hear you fine.
Sounds
Background
good.
music is fine. All right, let's, I'm standing so hard. I can't breathe. Holy shit. All right, let's get this stream started. I'm going to switch to my screen here. What we have is for the 30,000 people that are going to ask, what am I using, and so on. So on the right side, I have WebStorm with the Material UI theme, with some pale night theme, like I don't know, I just picked a color, and I'm using the new font, because someone's going to ask that. It's called JetBrains whatever, so it's just a font for WebStorm users. Anyway, on the left side, we have CZ, which is the browser for developers. As you know, if you haven't heard of it, instead of asking a bunch of questions in the stream, I'm going to put a link here so you can check it out while we're actually doing this thing. Yeah, so we have CZ in responsive mode. We're going to use a couple of devices. Hopefully we're going to try to have Tailwind hooked up so we can also work on some responsive stuff. On the right, what I also have is before the stream, we set up a Create React app. So it's just the simplest Create React app with one change. We actually use Rewired. So if you're wondering about that, because I was wondering, for now, you need Post CSS. I mean, not for now. You're probably going to need Post CSS forever for using
you need
Tailwind.
Post CSS forever. It's just a matter of how to get your Post CSS config into Create React app.
All right.
It's a little...
All right. So if you're using Next.js, it's easier to do this, and it's easier to actually customize your Post CSS config, right?
Yes.
But with Create React app, you actually have to rewire the Create React app setup and basically use the Post CSS config in config overrides. So for now, what I've set up is I just replaced all of my scripts with React app rewired. I haven't changed anything else because we actually wanted to do everything on the actual stream. Let me just retweet this from the CZ account, and let me retweet it from as many accounts as I can. And we're going to get that started because I was supposed to do that before we actually started. I'm just going to retweet it from the CZ account and we'll get going. All right. The Kitze. So we could have went with the Next.js setup. I'm just more familiar with Create React app, and I wanted to actually, because I think most of the users, I wouldn't say like, most of the users who start with React, they go with Create React app. So it would be fair to use that as a starting point and actually customize it and move on from there. All right, retweeted that. We should be good to go.
Cool.
Let me see if some questions increase the size of WebStorm. Of course. Yeah, I forgot to ask you that. I'm going to go and bump up the font size just a little bit because it's really like hard to actually use it with a huge ass font. So I'm going to go to 19 and hopefully that should be big enough on the right side. Someone is asking Boost CSS. It's not Boost CSS, it's Post CSS. You're going to see in a second. You might want to change the stream category from just chatting. That's a very good point, Pranit. As I said, there's always has to be a thing that I screw up before a stream. So I'm going to go and just change the category to development just so more people can join. Anything else you want to tell them about the Tailwind setup while I do this thing?
I don't think so, really. Like nothing that we're not going to cover anyways as we get it set up. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just like installing any other Post CSS plugin, like even Auto Prefixer, you know. So if you're used to installing that, then this is going to basically be the same thing. Create React app includes that by default, so you don't have to include that. But yeah, if you've set up Auto Prefixer on any other project, then setting up Tailwind is exactly the same amount of work. Or we'll go through it.
All right. Someone asks Adam's thoughts about when it comes to beginners. I could see it becoming a potentially big problem. You know what? Let's leave all the let's leave all the questions for the end. Like we're gonna go through this like with me. I'm a beginner, and then if we left some things unanswered, then we're gonna ask questions after that. Because I think we might answer some questions that I'm gonna ask anyway. So let's just get it. Let's just get this thing going. So what we have here is I'm going to pop up the reference browser for CZ, which is like we made a browser within a browser. And here I have all the links that I have. So I have Tailwind docs here on the left. I have the React app rewire tab here, and I have the Tailwind UI, which we are going to use at the end. So we need to plug this thing in React app rewired, right?
That's right.
So
I've never ever done this before.
Same.
But we should be able to get it going.
All right.
So we'll it looks like the easiest way to do this is to just use a Post CSS config file, and then it'll be more like the setup I'm used to. So it looks like all we have to do is pass in true as the second argument to...
Oh, you mean remove the options here and just go with true?
It looks like it.
Okay.
And
then just move this postcss.config.js or...
Then we can create a postcss.config.js file in the, I guess, right in the root. And then we can just kind of set this file up from scratch.
Okay. So but wait, I still have to plug it in here because I haven't installed this thing yet. Let me just install this as dev. And what is PostCSS preset env? Like I have no idea.
We don't need to use that. That's
we don't
just
need to use that.
Of a plugin that you might want to add. So I think
we also don't need true here. Like this should be fine. Let
me
restart.
It looks like if you want to use your postcss.config.js file, you need to pass true. It's any truthy value.
Oh yeah, any truthy value will do. Yeah, makes sense. Good catch.
And then, yeah, so we'll get that true in there, and then we should install Tailwind. And
okay, so now it says
probably-
no post CSS config found in Tailwind stream /source.
Okay, so let's
I've
open the
ever.
sidebar.
Okay.
Do we need to put the config file in the source directory? I guess, is that what it wants? Like what folders do we have
it says
here?
yeah, it says that it needs to go into source. So let's just move it into
Okay,
source.
so let's
start
start
to
in
restart
source.
that. Starting the development server, no post CSS config found in. Maybe because it's empty.
Yeah, it
I
could
would
be because
guess-
it's empty. So I think you can pull it out to the root level, because I'm pretty sure post CSS will.
Should work on the root level.
I think it will crawl up until it finds it. So here, just do like module.exports equals and an object,
Yeah.
and it'll have a key called plugins.
Oh, okay.
And here we can just do yeah, you can do it just like this. So maybe just do it as an empty array or an empty object to start.
Okay. But what do I need? Do I
And,
need to have this thing or?
No, that's just an example of one post CSS plugin that you might want to use.
Okay.
So let's just see if this is at least recognizing the config file now.
Wait a second. Like the chat is going crazy. They're like, you're ignoring the chat. What the fuck? Dude, turn off your chat pop-ups on the stream. Like, why? They're kind of useful. Stream really needs.
I won't be able to see this chat if they're not on the stream. But
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just see what do we get in the terminal now when we try to spin up the Create React App server.
People are misusing it. It's bad. That's like, who is spamming? I don't get it. What are you talking about in the chat?
Yeah,
like
there's
I blocked
we don't
someone,
see
so
the
their
spamming.
messages are yeah. I just blocked. Mindkiller is posting ACI dicks. Like I banned him. I mean, I banned him from the restream chat. I have no idea how to ban him from a Twitch chat, so I'm gonna try that. Give me a second. Kitze Grandpa learning about Twitch live. How do I do that? I have my stream here. There you go. Where do I find this fucker? Who's bugging you? Mindkiller, come on. Share something. It was just, oh my god, that's so cute. Now how the fuck do I block you? Like forever. Block Mindkiller. There you go. Block. Prevent them from sending you whisper, hosting you, whatever. That should be fine, right?
See ya, bud.
See you, buddy. Just mod me and I'll do it. Okay, Wilkins, should I actually try you? Like, how the fuck do I make you a mod? Mod comments? Mod comments? That's incorrect. Didn't work. Mod me. Okay, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I trust Beppo-sama because he was actually here for a long time. So I have no idea how to make you a mod. Jesus fucking Christ.
What does
Why
the
is this?
lightning bolt do? Does that do something?
Like I have no idea. Which lightning bolt? Oh, lightning bolt.
just
Mod
looking at those
user. Thank you.
icons.
Okay, Swiss. I'm gonna mod you. You moderate this chat right now. I completely trust you because you're in my stream every day. All right. Mod name. There you go. Should be fine, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
I guess so. I hope so. All right. I'm gonna close
Hopefully.
this.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We're
we'll see.
trying.
Otherwise, we'll just get rid of the chat and we'll move on. Hi, Chemic Pill. How's it going? All right, I'm not going to keep track of the chat. We're going to leave the questions for later because the chat is going crazy. I have almost 200 people are watching this, Twitch and YouTube combined. So if we answer every message in the chat, we're not going to move.
Yeah. No, can't be done.
All right. So
all right.
what are we doing next here?
Let's just see if we have fixed that error in the terminal. Not being able to
you
find
mean by just having empty plugins?
Yeah, like, is it enough?
Okay, yeah, it just said something like you don't have any plugins set, but it's good to go. So if the page is working, it should be fine.
So let's install Tailwind if we haven't already done that.
Nope. So just yarn add Tailwind?
Yeah, yarn add Tailwind CSS.
Is the name like this?
No, just all kind of
Tailwind
together,
CSS,
one
like this.
mushed up thing. Yep.
Okay, cool.
And we should add auto prefix or 2 because probably we're overriding the post CSS config, so we're going to want to have that in as well.
I would actually love to go in the Tailwind getting started. Tailwind.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think I have it here. Just so we can see when we click get started, we get Tailwind CSS, and then we have okay, but this is of course not React specific.
Yeah, so you can see kind of
okay.
Yeah. So there's 2 ways you can set up your post CSS config file. Like plugins can be an array or an object.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter for what we're doing.
Okay.
But you will want auto prefixer in there to make sure we get the vendor prefixes.
Okay. So I can
anything.
go with an array like this, and I can
Yeah,
require
and then you can just do require Tailwind CSS.
Tailwind CSS, and then require
an
auto
auto
prefixer. All right.
That's right.
So do I need to? I probably need to restart this every time. I mean, we're gonna do this once. We're not gonna do this all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So the next thing that we'll need to do is create like a CSS file.
CSS file, like anywhere, or?
Well, that's a good question. So I'm not sure.
Oh, we can go with the
where-
default like CSS that Create React app has, like the index CSS. Is that
Yeah,
fine?
okay. So let's just delete everything in this file and just copy and paste from, I think it's like step 2 in the installation docs.
Step 2 in the installation docs is this Tailwind based.
Yep, that should be enough.
Wait, what in the name of God is this? Like, I've never used it. Is this like an import thingy, or is this a post CSS thingy? Because I've never used something like that.
Yeah, so because Tailwind is a post CSS plugin, what it does is it crawls your CSS looking for sort of these Tailwind specific annotations.
Okay.
And it removes them and replaces them with generated code. So it's kind of like custom CSS syntax, basically.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So this should be enough?
Yeah. And is there a way for us to just like start up the server and then look in the dev tools and just kind of see, are all the classes available, you know?
Yep, we can go. Well, let me actually refresh this first. I'm gonna open DevTools here, just put it to the right side. And where should the, I mean, how should we know if the
this looks like it's working. So
Okay.
even if you go up to like the, you know, like the .cls little thing in the styles on the right. Yeah.
Were these things imported by Tailwind?
Yeah.
All of these things?
So this is normalized CSS, which is
Okay.
kind of what we use as the very base sort of reset.
All right.
And it's cut off the rest of it because it's about probably 25,000 lines of CSS.
Okay.
So yeah, but it looks like it's working. So now we should be able to go to wherever our kind of app component is and throw some classes on things and see if they're working.
All right.
Yeah,
WebStorm should pick this up. It should be smart enough to know that I'm using Tailwind. So just TAC is coming from Tailwind, or
no?
It's not. Oh, okay. I think these are just my helpers.
Tachyon's classes or something similar.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll. It looks like there's a. Oh no. So it should. I mean, if it's smart enough to pick up classes that are coming through, I think it has like stuff.
Let me just see. Tailwind WebStorm. It just has some things. Just to there's a WebStorm plugin for it. That's what they're saying. Okay, let's try WebStorm.
Yeah, it might not be good, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, search
Depends
the marketplace.
How it's implemented.
Tailwind CSS. It has 14,000 downloads and 3.8 stars.
So it's probably good.
The
The challenge is it going to use your custom config, or is it based on the defaults? You know, like there's different ways someone could build it. So let's just see what we get.
Okay. Let's just go. I say we go without a plugin and just see how far we can take it without without needing any help. This is Tailwind UI actually. Where's my tab? Oh, it's here. Tailwind docs. So if a beginner visits your website and they're done with the setup, where do you take them next? Like core concepts?
Yeah. So probably core concepts. So if you go to utility first, the very first thing in core concepts, this is kind of like.
Can I just paste this, and is it gonna work or not really?
Well, this is an example of how you might build something without Tailwind, and then this is how. Yeah, so just paste that in and change all the class to class name and stuff. And
I think WebStorm is doing that when you're pasting code. It's just complaining now that probably this is not closed. Chit chat. Okay, and I'm missing the images, of course. So I can go with the React logo here. So I can just go logo and. Okay, I got that thing. Like, this is straight up magic.
Yeah.
So first, like, why I like this is just, it makes sense. Like, anything that you paste from Tailwind UI is like, bam, you have a component. So
yeah,
that's freaking cool, man. Already impressed. All right. I'm gonna delete this. What's next?
Yeah. So let's. So what do you want to learn? Like, I can walk you through kind of some of the general features. Like, let's start maybe by just playing with some of the regular vanilla classes and just kind of explaining how some things generally work. So maybe just take like that div at the root level and throw a class name attribute on it. And let's just delete everything inside of it. So it's just an empty div.
Okay.
and we'll just do some stuff to it. So say we wanted to like give it a size, right? Like a height and a width.
Okay.
Those utilities are just like H dash, then some number for the height. And I can explain kind of how the numeric scale works. So it's helpful if you have like autocomplete in this case, because I don't think we have like a 30, for example. If you go to the docs, we can look at this actually and talk about it a bit. So if you scroll down to,
is there a list of everything? Geez. Okay, here.
Yeah. So yep, that is one place to look at it. There's like another kind of more higher level explanation of this. If you scroll up, I think it's in the customizing section, maybe. So if you look at customization spacing.
Okay, here you can define your own spaces and stuff.
Yeah, so at the very bottom, I think this has like a reference of the default spacing scale.
Okay.
So go all the way to the very bottom. Right, so the left-hand column is the number that goes in the class name.
Okay.
And then it's just explaining what that is. So basically, one Tailwind unit is 4 pixels. So we use like a 4-pixel grid for everything.
Got it.
So like 1 is 4 pixels, 2 is 8 pixels, 3 is 12, 4 is 16.
Okay, and what happens like if I pick up this Tailwind config and I will have only this options to append to the classes, right?
Sorry, what do you mean exactly?
Like if I take this, it will override. It's not gonna add.
That's right.
The existing.
You can
spaces.
add to it, so that's like what's documented next.
Okay. Okay.
But it's completely customizable, and that's a whole topic that we can get into too. So I think the best thing to do first is just kind of get familiar with what's included out of the box and how some of the features work, and then we can dig into customization stuff.
Okay, so if I do H4, the height of this is gonna be. Yeah, but I cannot see it right now because it's.
Yeah, so maybe let's add like a background color or something too.
Okay, I get one REM there. Okay, let's add background color. How do you do that?
So
BG?
To do that, it's just going to be BG dash and then some color name. So maybe like green dash. And then I don't know if you're familiar with like the material design. They use like a numeric scale.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we go from 100 to 900.
Okay,
so 100 is the lightest and then 900 is like the darkest.
That's sweet. Okay. Cool.
And then for
padding,
the width,
I guess would be P8 or something.
Yep.
And then do you have
let's get rid of the height utility since that is not going to play well with what we're doing here.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you just wanted to do padding on the vertical axis, it would be PY8.
PY8. Okay.
But no dash, sorry, after the P.
Oh, P. Okay. And then we have PX and PY.
Yep.
Okay. I guess the same thing works for margin.
Yep.
Okay.
So margin is just M.
M, and then if I do margin bottom, it's gonna be MB8 or something like that.
That's right. Now we can't really see anything. That's visually we're not going to see any of that. But if you did MT8, you'd see it push away from the top of the screen. Yeah,
I can put it here. So here I'm gonna have one class name MB8, and here I'm gonna have Yo, and wait, because I put. All right, yeah.
So we can put like different background colors on those two divs if we wanted to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you can see there is the space.
There's a space
between them now.
Got it. Okay.
So that's kind of some of the more basic CSS properties, right? Name a CSS property, and I'll tell you how to do it in Tailwind.
Font size and font weight should be, I don't know.
So font size is text dash.
Text.
And then text dash, and then it's like t-shirt sizes. So like SM or MD, or sorry, there isn't an MD, but there's like SM. Instead of MD, we have base, which is like your root font size. And then XL, 2XL, 3XL, 4XL, 5XL, 6XL. So with the number at the beginning.
Wait, so what do I have to write here? Text
dash 6XL.
Okay, like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. That's actually clever. Just so I don't have to write this and then go in my screen and count the X's.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. And then font weight is font dash, and then it's a name of like a font weight. So font dash bold, font dash light, font dash
first
medium.
question I have is, can I write my dumbass? If you write your own utilities, it's basically writing a class name. But can you write your own utilities that are going to compose other Tailwind classes? So if I change something in my theme, then the utility is gonna reuse the things that I've specified. Like, I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah. There's several ways to kind of do that sort of thing depending on what you want it to be able to do. So let's like jump over to our index.css file for a second.
Oh, you mean here, index CSS? Okay.
And say now, before we get into what we're going to do, I think something worth explaining is why there's 3 things here.
Yeah.
So instead of it just being like Tailwind and we just dump all the stuff in one place, base is like, are you familiar with have you ever seen Harry Roberts work on the ITCSS stuff? It's this like inverted triangle approach to CSS where your most wide reaching styles should be at the beginning of the style sheet and your most targeted styles should be at the end of the style sheet because the order of your CSS affects like specificity.
I think I've seen, when I was working with SAS and all the other things, I've stumbled upon that, but I've forgotten.
So the general idea is that here we've kind of created 3 groups. Base is kind of like your kind of global styles, your reset, and if you wanted to set up like a default H1 style or default link styles, that sort of thing. Components is kind of more complex classes that are like, say you had like a BTN class like Bootstrap has.
Okay.
That might be in like components. And then utilities are like your single property things. And the reason that components comes before utilities is say a button class had padding built into it. If you define the utilities after, then you can override the padding by sticking a padding utility on top, right? So in our case, if we wanted to create a class that composed some of the utilities, the best place to do that is right before this utilities declaration in my mind, because you would still want the utilities to be able to override it.
So I can write my own, let's say I don't know if you have a button class, but if I wanted to write my own button or drop down or whatever, I would put it here, and then I can use the Tailwind utilities in order to compose that button.
Yes. So
and then I just use the class name as a button. Well, first of all, I would see which one are the built-in components.
There's like, none, really.
There's none.
It's just like a concept. Because if we built it in components, it would be too opinionated, I feel like. Because the motivation for making Tailwind in the first place was that I wanted a framework that I could use, so I wasn't doing everything from scratch all the time, but I still wanted to be able to make sites that looked completely different from each other. And trying to do that with Bootstrap was a lot of work, you know?
Yeah.
So say we wanted to make a button class, what I would do is start by doing it in the HTML, and then we'll extract a component out of it.
So you want to make a React component called button, and then
let's just do it right in this file for now. So maybe just make like a button element.
Okay.
And
thingy. Okay.
Yeah, and then let's add a class name attribute to it, and we'll do some style. So maybe we'll do like px4 py2.
I like, you've probably written so much Tailwind in your life. You're just typing these things like this, and styles just pop up. Like, I feel like I'm such a noob when it comes to this, but yeah, it takes some getting used to, right?
Yeah.
So padding.
Maybe we'll do like rounded, so we have like some rounded corners on it.
How do I do rounded corners?
So just rounded, rounded.
I'm joking. Okay, so rounded, and then you get a number or what?
You can do it follows a similar scale as the font sizes. So there's like rounded SM, rounded MD, rounded LG. But there's also like just a rounded, that's kind of the default border radius. So when you don't want to type everything.
Okay.
So
makes
we
sense.
could do like just rounded or rounded MD or something. And maybe let's make it like a bright blue button or something. So maybe we'll do like BG blue, like 600 or something.
600. Okay.
And maybe we'll do like text white.
Text white like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay, first question. I'm gonna interrupt with questions.
Yeah.
What's the easiest way to add a hover effect that's gonna make BG blue 600?
Yeah. So just type hover.
Okay.
Colon.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. BG blue 600.
Yo, what? Oh, that's cool. Okay, and what if I want to add a default transition that's 150 milliseconds for all the properties? Do you have like
just type transition?
Okay.
And then type then we need like a timing function. So a good one for this sort of thing is like ease in out. So just space as a new class, just ease -in -out.
Okay.
And then for a duration, we can just add a duration. So say duration dash 150 is going to be 150 milliseconds.
So basically it's going to combine this with that. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's 3 CSS properties so that you can compose them. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit verbose, and
now
maybe there's ways we can, yeah.
Okay, and now I have a little bit of a big font size here, and that's why it looks like this. But like the first thing that irritates me here is I just cannot see this. Like, is there a plugin or something or a prettier thing to just make the classes go one and like, how do you format this thing, or do you keep all the class names
I
like
just
this?
let it bleed off the side of the screen, honestly.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me personally, but it could be depending on your hardware, sometimes it's annoying. Like I use like the magic mouse or the trackpad, so side scrolling is easy. But you could also just enable word wrapping, which I do a lot too for streams, and then it'll just kind of wrap things. And if your editor wraps things intelligently, it's not too bad. Like, what does it look like if you enable wrapping in WebStorm? Does it respect the indentation?
Let me just find it. Okay, spinning beach ball. There it is. Wait, wrap. I have no idea where to enable this. Wrapping embraces stick purity over chain wrapping. Dude, I have no idea where to enable this.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's just like like a, I don't know. Let's see. I'll
general
WebStorm wrap text.
Wrap text. If someone can help in the chat, that would be nice. Use the original
view active editor use soft wraps, or there's a setting under editor general use soft wraps in editor.
Okay, let's just do this. Configure soft wraps. There it is. Soft wrap this files md txt rst adoc, but there's no JavaScript here. So
yeah, so I mean we could put it there for the purposes of the stream if you wanted to, but
no, it's fine. Let's not sweat it. It's just a question. Like, if the editor can do wrap and the classes are gonna go down. Oh, okay.
Hasn't been a problem.
Have you seen anyone, like probably an idiot like me, that's gonna take this and basically move it into like a button thing? Like, instead of doing this, and I'm just gonna take the entire string and just call it button Tailwind.
So totally
something.
One way to do it. And now Tailwind has like support for sort of doing this built in. So we can experiment with that too, which is what we were kind of working towards when we started playing with that CSS file. So let's jump over to the index.css file for a second.
CSS, all right.
And then after the components section, let's define like a dot button class.
Wait, just a second. Somebody's being helpful in the chat. I don't want to ignore them. View wrap. Bam. Okay, now it's gonna be wrapped like this. So if I inline it, okay, this is doable.
It's not
this is
terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
It'd be better if it didn't go all the way to the left edge when it wrapped.
Yeah.
Than nothing.
I think there are some settings here.
Some editors do it differently. Yeah.
So what should I do here?
Let's create a class here called dot button.
You mean in between components and utilities?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Here? Yep. So just do like dot btn, and then in here, if we want to basically build this out of what we already did in the markup, you would just type @apply.
What?
@ sign.
Yeah.
Yep. Then space. Then just paste in the class list.
The class list. You mean this?
Yep.
And paste it here.
Paste it next to apply. Delete the hover one just for now. That's something we can talk about in a second.
Okay.
But
and
if you just save this now,
stuff. Okay.
The transitions are fine. I would leave those there.
Okay. And now I can do button.
Now you can just put button there, and it should be the same.
So what's the issue? What's the issue with hover?
So the hover thing is just kind of a technical challenge that we haven't tackled yet in terms of just getting it to work there. The kind of workaround for now is just to define .button : hover, like define your hover state separately. Like you would in regular CSS. This, right? .button hover, and then you would apply.
Whatever I had
BG Blue 600 without the hover prefix. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm gonna. Without the hover. Yeah.
Since now you're already in like the hover state.
Yeah, makes sense. Exactly. Okay. Somebody's saying in the chat, I don't get it how you're okay with repeating the same styles in end buttons. No, like if you're using React in this case, just assuming like if you're not using React, I guess you would go with this, right? Like we're literally showing that example. If you're using React, probably button will be a component.
Just a component. Yeah. I wouldn't bother creating a class for it in a React.
So
app.
I think what's like Tailwind is gonna actually force you to make smaller React components, because as soon as you make like shit ton of Tailwind classes, you might as well be like, okay, this component file has way too many Tailwind stuff, like things going on. I want to move this in a separate component. So I think like at least that's how I think. When I see a lot of like if this had a lot of Tailwind stuff classes on it, and this had a lot of Tailwind classes on it, and this one had like, I would at least take one of them and be like, okay, which one I can move. But then my question to you is like, when do you decide to go with a class name, and then when do you decide to go with a React class?
I basically would never use class names if I'm using a React or Vue or something. It's only really useful to me if I'm working on like building a WordPress theme or something where I don't have another way to create components. I'm working on like a Rails app or something where we're using like ERB partials or something. Sometimes it's just like a little weird to make a partial for a button. Usually like you only make partials for bigger things. So you might create some more custom classes there. But generally I try to avoid it as much as possible and prefer to just use proper components. And we have a section on this in the docs too, if you want to bring it up. That sort of explains philosophy and recommendations around this too.
Yeah, like I think that if you're a React user, I would always go with making a component when you can. Like I would use this to make reusable utilities. So, which brings me to my next question.
And there's multiple ways to do that. And most of the time you don't need to create totally custom utilities. A lot of the time you probably just need to extend one of the utilities we already have. Like you want to add a new background color, or you want to add an extra font size or something, right? But it's very rare in my experience that you need to, like, it's not like we are missing some really important CSS property. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you want to change a box shadow? Like, you don't have to create a whole new class out of nowhere. We already have support for box shadows. You just need to add your box shadow, right? So yeah, that's kind of that. What should we do next?
I wanted let me just add Prettier here, because I think Prettier is not installed. Let me see the chat. They said it's how about media queries? We'll get to media queries. I have the next questions, which is Flex. So first I'm going to show you what I'm using and what actually simplified my usage of Flex, because I couldn't remember all the CSS and shit. So I've built this package called layout styled components, and like lately everyone is coming up with a similar package or a component in their component library. So here in this one you get horizontal, vertical, and on them like I would make something horizontal. And usually what I would do, instead of importing these things, like I also have grid and space here. Instead of importing them like this, I do import all of them as L, and then I can just use L.horizontal to make something horizontal. Cool. And then if I want to center it both ways, I'm going to say center. If I want to center it just vertically, I would say center V or center H just to center it vertically. And then it works for the vertical and for the horizontal, like the same thing. And you can also invert it. Like if you have some Boolean logic, you can say invert, and then based on some Boolean, you're going to invert it, and it's going to make it vertical, but it's going to apply the center H for the vertical axis. So basically it's going to flip things around. So what would be like the Tailwind way of doing this without adding like 5 different classes?
There is none without adding the classes. Like,
no, I mean, like, can we make a utility function that goes like, I want this to be horizontal, but then when I say center, this center should basically you can just do it without Tailwind, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do this, you'd basically just be writing custom CSS.
Custom CSS. But do you have any helpers or for like?
No, not really. Like, if you wanted to do Flex, like I would just create a class called Flex.
Okay.
And then, Flex. Then item center does a line item center. Justify between does justify content between.
Okay.
So you do have to memorize like the Flexbox API. Basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I hate the Flexbox API.
Or you could create custom components like you have that use these classes under the hood, which is a pretty common approach too.
So yeah, instead of
like just like you have with the styled components, that just uses Flexbox directly under the hood. You could do the same thing with Tailwind classes under the hood if you want.
Yeah, you can easily recreate this and you're good to go. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So for Flex vertical, you do.
It'd be Flex. And then, so this page is just for the Flex property, right?
Okay.
If you want Flex direction, that's got its own
Flex
docs
row
page.
and Flex call and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
But if I go Flex call, it doesn't make it Flex, right? I still need Flex.
No, you need Flex call. Yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't it make sense to make this also apply Flex or?
We try to avoid being too clever with things like that, because historically, anytime we try to be clever, it bites us. It ends up being, we run into less regrettable situations when we just map to the CSS properties one-to-one and try not to be cute about it. But you probably, like, some people do create like helpers that simplify some things. For me, you just get used to having all these classes, and it ends up not being that big of a problem for most people, or not a problem at all, really. I personally, you just don't even think about it anymore. But yeah, that's how you would do it. So flex to set the display flex, then set the direction with the utility for that.
All right, so people are asking about,
we have the same thing for like CSS grid support and stuff as well. So.
Okay, let me actually check the grid. Grid template columns, grid gap. Cool. All right, I like the way of doing responsiveness. We need to show that off, actually. All right, did you want to do something else, or can we jump to, because I got the classes
let's
thing.
let's do the media query stuff, because I think that's an interesting one. So maybe a fun way to do that would be to just like build a little responsive grid. Okay, that's one I think that people are used to seeing. Yeah. So let's just start by setting up a like a grid that's maybe one column on mobile, and then we'll make it different shapes and sizes on different screen sizes.
All right, I can just zoom this since we work in all the screens at once, and then we can try optimizing it for different screens.
Yeah, this is good. Okay.
All right.
So let's just create a div with a class of grid to sort of turn it into a display grid.
Okay, we can go with with this one. Great. All right. And now?
And then let's create some children, maybe like 6 children or something.
6 children, Jesus Christ. All right.
Well, if we want to have like a bunch of grids on the screen so we can kind of see how things are moving around. So maybe just give this like a class name of like BG Gray 400 or something.
Class name BG Gray 400?
Sure, just like any background color.
Okay, let's add some padding.
Maybe we get some padding, like P something.
Okay,
and let's just duplicate that so we have a few of them.
Yeah, okay.
And
2,
then
3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
Yeah, that should be enough. So now if we go up to the parent, we can say, by default, say we want it to have one column, which it already does, but let's just be explicit about it so people can understand what the classes are.
Okay.
So let's just say grid-calls-1. So this is now one column grid. And then let's say like gap 4. So we have a grid gap of 4.
Okay.
All right. Now we have like a single column grid. So now you can see this is just a single column grid on all screen sizes, right?
Okay.
So say on the iPad screen, we wanted this to be like a grid that had 2 columns.
Okay.
So Tailwind's default breakpoints, it works mobile first like Bootstrap. So everything is a min width media query.
Okay.
So we have kind of our default, which is like no media query utilities. Okay. And then there's a breakpoint at 640, 768, 1024, and 1280.
Okay, I guess you have that laid out somewhere in the
It's going to be up in the core concepts in the responsive section probably. Or in the breakpoints.
Responsive design. Okay. So you just prefix the name of the media query, and then you add any class that exists.
Literally any class in the whole framework. Yeah. So you can even make something uppercase on desktop, but lowercase on mobile, or you know what I mean? Literally anything you want.
Okay.
So if we wanted to make this a 2-column grid here on the iPad size, since the iPad is 768, that's our medium media query. We would just do MD : grid calls 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Done. And then if you wanted to do on the iPad Pro down at the bottom, you could do LG grid calls 3, and that'll be a 3-column grid.
Like something like my developer ego is like, take this and make it into a mixin. So take this out and just do some because it's in React, probably you're seeing less weird shit when people are using this with Vue or whatever. But here, just the fact that I know that I can use a string like this makes me want to write a helper that's going to do something but probably you have a helper class for that, like grid, and then just put a couple of things here that is going to be like, this goes on the small media query, this goes on the medium, and this one goes on the big.
Yeah. You could make like a function if you wanted to that did something like that for sure.
But in this case, like the function
generally I try to avoid extracting things into like variables, because I think what that does is it forces you to give that variable a name. And I think once you get comfortable with Tailwind, you realize that like the thing you hated about regular CSS was that you had to name everything, because it slows you down so much. You have to name every single thing, even things that don't deserve a name. That's why you end up with like profile header outer wrapper for a class. You know what I mean? It's like, this doesn't fucking deserve a name. It's just an element that needs to have some styles on it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But if you would want to write some mix-ins, let's just focus on the React world. Somebody says that Kitze needs to unlearn React. I'm not going to unlearn React. So I'm curious, if I would use Tailwind with React, would I make this kind of JavaScript helpers that actually return Tailwind classes? Does that make sense? Does anybody do that? So I can just throw
some
in
people
this?
do this. I would encourage, there's a pitfall that you'll run into doing something like this using Purge CSS, which is something people have mentioned in the chat. So Purge CSS is a tool that we use to like tree shake unused styles from your style sheet, because by default Tailwind is like a meg or something of CSS, which you don't want to actually ship in production. In development, that's great because you have all the classes available, but in production, most Tailwind sites end up being like 4 to 10 kilobytes of CSS because you rip out all the stuff that you're not using. But if you get too clever with like string concatenation and stuff, it makes it harder for the tool to know what styles that you're using. So you get the best results if you just use complete class names as much as possible.
Okay, but I would get the same thing. Like if I make a React component that's a grid, and if I make anything dynamic in this component, right, in the class names, like let's say I want to go with this class names and just actually get this thing from props, like I'm going to get ABC here in the props, I'm still running into the same problem with tree shaking, right?
There's different ways that you could do this though. Instead of building the string like dynamically by doing like grid calls variable, I would probably build it by doing like object lookups, you know? So like maybe you have like a map that has all your grid calls values, and it has like 1 maps to the full class, grid calls 1, 2 maps to the full class, grid calls 2, and then those complete strings will appear in the file, and Purge CSS will be able to detect them.
Okay, so I guess a common utility that you would use in React would be the class names thing, the package class names.
We use class names a lot.
Is there any?
Sure.
That's the most recommended one. Like you would go with that?
I don't do enough React to have like a strong opinion on it. I just know that that's the most popular one. I know
People
there's another lighter one. Yeah.
Is there a lot? I think there was something called CX.
Yes, I know. I saw this the other day. It's like 4 letters, and it's meant to be just like a much lighter version of class names.
Class names alternative. Yeah, there's class names. Come on, where's the clever ass that probably put class wrap? Tiny alternative to class names.
I don't think it's that one either. It's
CLCX.
Some obscure name like
SX. Is this thing a tiny? Oh my god, it's 229 bytes. I would definitely go with that one. Okay, but they're all doing the same shit, right?
Yeah, it lets you do that like object syntax for, if this is true, then add this class. If it's false, don't, or that sort of thing.
And if you would like to do like dynamic values, there's no way to do that, right? So what you recommend is you always map one-to-one a prop to a Tailwind class name without anything dynamic inside the Tailwind class name, right?
I think if you're making React components and using Tailwind internally, I think the right approach is to not think of people as working with Tailwind directly from outside of the component. Think of Tailwind as just an implementation detail of the component, and design the prop API to be however you want it to be. So a lot of the apps I've seen that have been built with Tailwind, people aren't using classes very often in like larger components. They're just composed out of a stack component with a text component with a heading component, you know what I mean? And you don't actually see the Tailwind classes until you get close to the metal, where you see some of the implementations of those lower level foundational components. So that's how I would generally do it.
Okay, someone says like dynamic is a developer and you speaking. Tailwind CSS is used mainly for your design systems. I don't think that dynamicness of your UI will be figured out beforehand. Well, I don't think so, because like when I'm thinking on like the most recent project that I worked on, like most of the things, like not most of the things, but some of the things are dynamic, where you would pass, like sometimes you have a boolean, you're like, based on this boolean, make something bold, which is easy to do with the class names utility, but sometimes it's like pass a dynamic height to something. And I guess in that
Sure.
case, would you utilize CSS variables or?
I think like the way that I typically do that sort of thing is either using inline styles if that's sufficient for me, or if I was
Okay.
in a React situation, I might combine Tailwind with like Emotion or something and use
Or you
CSS and
you
JS
just
as like an
slap the inline
escape
styles here.
hatch.
Yeah.
Because and with something like if you can use a CSS prop, it's a little more flexible because with inline styles you can't do media queries, right? So if you needed to do something at different screen sizes, then using CSS and JS is better.
Okay.
But
I think like
Yeah.
if you think about the ratio of how many things you're gonna have to be dynamic and how many things are just gonna be classes, it's gonna be like around 80 to 20 or 90 to 10. So most of the things can be expressed with a class. The
I
parts
agree.
that dynamic, you can just go with inline styles with styles or just some other like super lightweight utility CSS and JS thing, and then keep Tailwind for the rest of it.
If you look at like Tailwind UI, which I know we were going to talk about, all the components there, like there's not a single component that relies on inline styles anywhere. It's all using just classes.
Okay.
So I think you can get pretty far.
Okay. So yeah, I don't want to jump straight away to Tailwind UI. Let's just continue what we were doing with the grid.
What we're doing here. So this is so if you take that iPad at the top and rotate that, because I guess right now that's the wrong.
Yeah.
That's the 1024 one. So yeah, now you can see we've got our single column, 2 column, 3 column, and this is like not that different from what you could do in Bootstrap, right? Like Bootstrap has responsive grid classes.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about Tailwind is that it takes that to like the extreme, where it lets you do it for literally any single property that you want. So like you could make child number 3 red at a different screen size instead of gray.
Okay.
Or you know,
you can do like more specific things.
Literally anything.
But what if I have more things that right now when it's medium, I'm applying one thing. Now if I want to apply more things, like I want to say when it's medium, I want the background color to green, I add it like this, right? And then I add every single one that I need for like text, red, and so on. I don't think that I wrote this right, or
that should be. It looks like it's a really light green. Like 100 is like very faint. It looks like it's coming through to me. Try like BG green 300. Right now it just says 300.
Yeah. Let's do 400 or something. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's there.
So you would just repeat MD with all the utility, with all the classes that should be applied when it's MD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing, like lately when I'm working on responsive design, most of my things are done with like just grid and flex wrap. So actually I don't have that many specific media queries where I'm saying, hey, on width MD do that or this. Like I don't know what you have. I'm curious to see like the code for Tailwind UI. Like, how many responsive things do you have? Okay, small block, small absolute, small inset, Y0, small. Okay, so you actually have a lot of responsive styles here.
Usually only on like
the parent wrapper. Okay,
on the parent,
but this
right?
like just to show people which component I'm looking at. Like this is like I would divide this, if I would do this with React, I would divide this into like 10 different components. So when people look at this and they're like, oh my God, it's too many class names, but it's too many class names because it's like a entire portion of your page.
It's an entire example.
Yeah.
And if you look at on the right hand side there's a little drag handle and you can like resize all these
to see
all the responsive behavior.
Yeah. So you get all of this. You're not just getting just one little thing there.
Yeah.
All right. What is the JS deliver thing? Alpine. What is Alpine?
This is like a really kind of lightweight declarative UI library that just lets you do stuff like if you
I've seen it.
See there's like X data, open, false.
Yeah.
It just kind of lets you write JavaScript right in your HTML attributes. So we can just kind of annotate like, okay, well, when the dropdown is open, these classes should be added. When the dropdown is closed, these classes should be removed.
And it's super lightweight, right? You can also paste this code and use it with React.
Well, if you were going to use this with React, I would translate the logic to.
Well, if I'm a lazy person, which I am, can I like this is not that
maybe
heavy
it'll work.
to add to React.
Yeah, but it's such a different paradigm. It's like directly manipulating the DOM and not doing any virtual DOM or re-rendering stuff. So to me, it seems like a bad idea to mix them. Because even what we provide is purely just documentational, right? All we're trying to say is like, yes, when a component can have multiple states, there's going to be some classes for when it's open and some classes for when it's closed, for example. We want to tell you what those classes should be. I considered just doing like HTML comments to just say, oh, when the dropdown is closed, make sure you remove this class and add this one. But it seemed cleaner to just give people something that looked more like pseudocode, where you could just like see the logic. But when you're building out like a full-fledged React version of, say, a dropdown, there's a lot of stuff that we don't give you in terms of the JavaScript, because like we're trying to stay just on the design and markup side. But if you want to have like keyboard navigation where you can hit up and down to go through like the dropdown options, like we don't give you the code for that, you know what I mean? Or if you want to do focus trapping, where when a modal is open, hitting tab never escapes the modal. That's kind of like your responsibility, you know?
Okay, but are you planning like to provide the code without this, so people can actually, like, if I'm a React user and I copy this, I would have to get rid of a bunch of things before I actually use
so that's
this.
something I'm trying to solve right now. So actually, I would be interested in your opinion on this.
All right.
Because it's something I'm working on today. So let me send you a link. Where should I send it to you? On Twitter?
Twitter, yeah.
Okay. Here is a link to a gist that I posted yesterday.
Okay.
So if you pull that up, and there's two files here where I was just trying to show like, okay, what would you prefer to be able to get when you copy stuff? So the first one is like, here's a drop down where I've used comments to explain the transitions. And the second one is where we used Alpine. So if in this first one, if you copied this and pasted it into a React app, it would be closer to valid. Okay. You'd have to switch it to class name, right, instead of class. But you'd have to read the comments to understand like what
how to do the dynamic logic,
and stuff like that.
This is like how I look at this is like, is it like poor man's web components? Because web components suck that much. You actually decided to include Alpine, and that's fascinating to me. Like I think
don't know
by
anything
now
about web components.
Yeah, same. But didn't people bug you like, hey, why are you using Alpine? You should have just used web components. Did someone
a couple people have said that, but I literally don't know a single human being on earth that I talk to that uses them. So so right now I'm leaning towards switching to just the comments, because that seems to be what people want. And even though it doesn't make it any less work, you still have to like implement the interactive behavior however you need to, based on what JavaScript approach you like best. You know what I mean? But the other alternative was just saying, okay, well, Tailwind UI is a view library, and now we'd make it really opinionated and it just works out of the box. But now if you use React, well, you're just never going to want to use it, because it says right on the box that it's not for you. You know what I mean? So we thought, have you ever used Bulma before? The CSS framework?
Not really, no.
So it kind of takes this approach of like bring your own JavaScript as well. It's CSS only, and they have interactive components, but you're required to do the interactive behavior yourself.
But did someone build Bulma React or something?
I'm sure there is that for sure.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, if you look at like the drop down, they kind of tell you, well, you have to add the isActive class whenever you want it to actually be open. And for them, it's a little easier because they have these more like high level classes instead of just all utilities. Yeah. But I don't think they've been able to spin it as like a benefit, which to me it is a benefit. And it's like, we could couple everything to React and then no one else could use it. Or we could just say, here's just HTML, a format that everybody understands. And you bring whatever JavaScript framework you actually like, and just it's all it is a use state call and a dynamic class somewhere. You know what I mean? It's like it's not a lot of
that's what I'm saying. It's not a lot of JavaScript involved in these small components. But the question that probably a lot of people want to know, everyone is mentioning Tailwind.js. Are you ever planning to do like release Tailwind UI or whatever with your own JS logic, or just snippets for React, Vue, Angular, and so on?
Yeah, we want to do like proper React and Vue integrations. But it's maybe like a fall project at the earliest. I just hired 2 people, so there's gonna be 4 of us working full time on Tailwind now. Okay. And that's gonna help.
So you have one person who sits in the office and just adds a couple of booleans for React, and he's like, "What should I do now?" Well, I don't know. Just chill for it. No, but it would be useful. I think
hoping to do that. Yeah.
That makes sense. I guess that's the most asked question. Like I have no idea about the interactive logic in Tailwind UI. Like I've seen how it works. But the cool thing is Tailwind UI doesn't introduce any specific classes like Bulma, right? It just goes with everything that's inside of Tailwind. Or does it have some extra layer?
There's a couple extra things, but they're extra things that we're going to merge into Tailwind itself.
Okay.
So right now there's like a Tailwind plugin that you have to install to get the extra stuff that Tailwind UI includes. But we've done it that way just so that we can sort of have the chance for people to use it and not like commit to it by putting it in the framework. Because if we put it in the framework right away and then decide, oh, now after having 10,000 people play with it, there's a couple changes we should make to the API, and now we have to do like a breaking Tailwind release. So this lets us sort of iterate on it in a separate plugin until we've proven that, yeah, we've got all the scales and the names right, and then we'll kind of merge it into Tailwind and people won't have to use that plugin anymore.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
so ask about making Tailwind JS similar libraries or CSS, but it will be used for dynamic like Alpine. Well, Samuel, I don't know if I should ask that, because making a specific library that works like Alpine, when you actually have Alpine, it doesn't make sense. If you start going that route, building your own Tailwind JS, have you actually thought of that? Let me ask the question.
I don't want to do that, really.
Yeah,
I think
like
one thing that we have considered. Yeah, one thing that we have considered that I think would be interesting to explore is building and maintaining some JavaScript libraries that support common UI behavior that have no design opinions. Like, what am I trying to say? Have you ever used the downshift library before? The React downshift library?
Yeah, I have. You need to pass 30,000 props to it in order to have a drop down. And it's like, on one hand, it's nice.
But the benefit is now you can make the drop down look exactly the way you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like this thing that you like bolted onto your app that has like the wrong colors and, you know, like every jQuery UI plugin does. But it's a little bit more effort. But that's something we've been thinking about exploring is, can we try and extract all the complicated parts into something where all you have to worry about is building it to look the way you want and just attaching the props that are necessary. But yeah, some people are going to want it to be even easier than that and don't care about it looking good. But I try to build the tools that I would want, right? So like if you look at like the companies that I admire and the sites that I admire, like you go to the Stripe dashboard, they're not using a fucking jQuery UI drop down there. They built it from scratch because they wanted it to look good. To
look completely like with their design system and stuff.
But they had to build it completely from scratch just because there was nothing off the shelf that was customizable enough, you know? Whereas you can use something like Downshift in a site like Stripe and no one would ever know. It's not like it's not ruining your brand, and it's saving you a bunch of work because it's at least covering, you know, 50% of the effort instead of 0. So
someone mentioned this in the chat, React. They said React, whatever it's called, plus Tailwind equals love. So is this like I think this one is a library that comes without styles. I think I've seen it before, and then you can slap your own styles and classes on top of it. So this gives you accessibility and stuff. And I click on components.
Yeah, this is cool.
But this still has some UI.
Like, so what does like a drop down look like, or menu?
Probably
maybe?
it's coming in version 7.4. Menu preferences. There you go.
Yeah. So what do you do here? You
still reuse components, but like
but
this
where
thing
did the
still
styles come from for that?
Yeah, exactly. But probably these have some like skeleton components that you can, abstract components. I think they're talking about this ones.
Okay, so if you
Devon is saying literally building the library of UI-less components right now.
So how do you add your own styles to it though? So actually that's in the docs, I'm sure, right? I'm being unnecessarily critical. If you go to scroll up on the left, there's a styling section. Styling,
yeah, let's see. Inline styles, CSS in JS with class name, color, whatever.
Yeah, so you could just use regular class names, it looks like. Like if you can do class name equals CSS, then you could also do class name equals Tailwind classes.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good to know. I'm gonna look at this today because maybe this means that I can, if I wanted to give someone a React example from Tailwind UI, I could just say, well, here's an example using this React kit or Rekit or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad I
They're
learned
more about
it.
accessibility and handling state for things like a dropdown.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that I don't want to be responsible
Exactly,
for. Right?
exactly.
So
you don't want to build that from scratch. Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I will if I have to, but if I don't have to, that's better. You know?
I think like every time a developer decides not to build something, a kitten is saved somewhere in the world, because I'm so fucking tired of everyone reinventing the wheel. Like, just when you think that people are going for one pattern or one library or Tailwind, let's say, someone's gonna come up with something that's a little bit different. Like, instead of sitting down with the other developer and actually merging their ideas, they're like, no, I'm building my own thing. And then 30,000 people are going that direction. And like constantly the develop, like even the React community and the web the community is just branching out so much. And like at the end of the day, everyone is rebuilding the same fucking button over again. Like it's a button with a hover.
True.
That's it. You just style it and you write it with Alpine or React or Tailwind. Like I would think like if you decide not to build something in JS, that's better for the community. Because like more people are going to be like, hey, let's use React, whatever it's called, because it already exists there. But unfortunately, that's not the developer mentality. It's like, let's rebuild everything.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
are you interested in supporting React Native? That's a question that comes from the chat, but I also want to know this.
A couple people have like created React Native libraries that are very Tailwind inspired, because you can't use like real CSS in React Native, as far as I understand, right? Like they have their own styling API that is like based on CSS, but I can't take like a CSS file and in any way use that in React Native.
You have to, like, I think it's something similar to inline styles, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is something that's on our list of like potential future projects, because one of the people that we're bringing on has some React Native experience and maintains their own React Native app and wants to be able to use Tailwind in it. So it's definitely something that we're going to explore. Maybe by the end of the year, we'll have started looking into it. But for now, there's a few libraries out there. You'd probably just have to Google React Native Tailwind and pick through the different open source things that people have created to see what one looks best.
Let's see it. React Native Tailwind. There you go. First one, functional CSS. Like probably it's, how does this work? Oh, it has, wow. Who brought class names to React Native? What the, what the fuck? Like literally everyone who's moving to React Native is like, oh, finally, no more classes. I can just work with that. And this guy's like, nope, bitch, class names are back. But if you can actually reuse the styles, that's fucking epic. Because in that case, you wouldn't have to use something like, I don't know.
I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And this is leading to a link that doesn't work. So I wouldn't trust this too much. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some
React
Native
stars does this have? 224. Oh, there's a update 2 days ago though. So.
Yeah. There's a good question in the chat. Do you think about creating the private React lib where the buyer can contribute? Or actually, are you planning to give contributor rights for Tailwind UI? Or are you planning to be just you exclusively doing? Probably not.
It's too kind of murky. Like, it's weird to charge people money for something and then have a bunch of people doing the work for free. It's kind of just awkward.
You know, actually, well, it is awkward, but it's not like I haven't thought of it about CZ. Like and some of our customers have actually asked about it. They're like, hey, we have interesting ideas. Can we contribute to CZ? And for now, I'm saying no, because we want to be in charge of everything. But it's not a bad idea to... Well, it's different for a UI library, but...
I think it's like something we could potentially explore. I don't think I would ever want to just like open it up universally and make it...
Yeah.
And have to be closing PRs all the time and looking like an asshole because I don't like the changes that someone wants to make. You're gonna feel like a douchebag. Someone paid shit ton of money and you're like, close PR, fuck you. Yeah, exactly. But maybe there's a world where, you know, we can start working with a small number of people on like an invite only basis who really want to contribute things, and everyone is sort of on the same page and whatever. But right now that's not something that we're doing. So
yeah, I actually agree with your decision.
It's hard. Like it's from the perspective of a maintainer, it's easy to understand why it's feels risky to like have to deal with all that stuff. But then from the perspective of the customer, it's like, oh, just let me add this. I'll do it myself. Like you don't even have to worry about it, you know? And it's like, I totally understand that perspective too. So,
but if you go down that road, then it's like everyone wants to add their own thing and has an opinion on everything. And it's like, no.
Yeah, it's hard to find the right balance.
Yeah. I think we can move on from this question.
Yeah. So what else do we want to look at next? I'm trying to think of like what other cool Tailwind features we haven't really talked about. I think like the hover stuff, you can do the same thing with like focus and stuff. One thing that might be kind of cool is a question that comes up a lot that people don't expect Tailwind to have a solution for is, say you have a situation where you need to change something when like the parent gets hovered.
Oh,
that's like feels like it might be tricky to do with like a utility, right? Like, but we have ways to do it. So that could be like a fun thing to look at.
Yeah,
we have to touch some customization stuff.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So say what's like a good example is like a card from a drop down that's like, let's just build something kind of actually, you know what you should do is go to the Tailwind docs again and grab that you know that thing we grabbed from the utility first section, that little card with the little SVG icon in it? Yeah, that thing.
This thing. Yeah.
Just like grab that and just stick it in here.
Outside the grid. Yeah. It's a copy the entire gist.
Get rid of the grid even.
Okay. I just need to close this image
and maybe if you want, maybe either just delete actually that whole chunk, that flex shrink 0 div that has the logo.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't need that for what we want to be able to do here. And then get rid of the ML6 on the other div, since we don't have to add that space between the two
here, right?
Sides. And you can get rid of the PT1 since that was shoving it down to kind of align it with the thing. So yeah.
Wait, what happened to Prettier? Like I have Prettier. Why the fuck doesn't Prettify my code? Prettier, run on save. Let me run it. Or maybe it's because of the wrapping. It's not because of the wrapping. Like I don't know. WebStorm doesn't want to run Prettier. Never mind.
If you break the indentation, does it just not run?
Well, I'm not sure. Like if this is valid code, it should run. Nope, doesn't run. Like I don't know what happens. Anyway.
Okay.
What did you want to do here?
Let's look at what we have in the browser.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay, so say like you wanted to be able to hover over that card and have like the background go blue and all the text go white.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just add the blue background. So on line 7, let's add like a hover class. So we can do like hover BG blue 500 or something.
Okay.
And now say you added like hover text white on that. It's not going to be enough because the two pieces of text have different
their
colors,
own overrides. Yeah. Okay.
So if we wanted to be able to change both the text to white whenever you hover over the parent, we have to use this like group hover feature that we added to Tailwind. Now this is not enabled by default, but we can edit our Tailwind config file to kind of make it work. So
but I need to create tailwind.config.js, right? Yeah,
the easiest way to do it is from the terminal because it'll scaffold it with like some of the options already there.
Love the terminal. So
you use yarn.
Yeah.
So just do yarn run Tailwind CSS init.
Okay. Create a Tailwind config file. Well, that's nice. All right.
So now in the variants section, that's where you sort of enable like hover, focus, active, that sort of functionality for the different sort of plugins in Tailwind.
Okay.
So since we want to be able to change the text color on group hover, let's add text color as a key here. So just camel case text color.
Oh, like this.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that's going to be an array, and we're going to list all the different variants that we want to generate. So because we're overriding the config, we have to include any of the ones that are enabled by default if we still want those as well. So in this case, you would do responsive because we want to have like the small, medium, large stuff, and then also do like hover, focus. Okay. And you would notice when these weren't enabled when you actually went to use them, and you could just come back to your variants config and add it. And then also add group dash hover.
Okay.
So this is going to create a special variant of this that lets you do this thing that we want to do. So hopefully we might have to restart the build that it notices this file and starts picking it up, but maybe not.
I just restarted it, so it's fine.
So now if we go back to the app.js,
Yeah.
add a class called group to, I would add it to the next div, the one with the blue background.
Yeah. Okay.
And this just kind of marks it. And then on the H4,
on the H4
on line
here,
9, you can add group dash hover colon text white. And then the same thing for the element below.
Okay. So wait, how in God's name does this work? First of all, let me see if it works. It works magically.
Yeah.
Let me try to understand that. Like, what the fuck does group hover, text color, group hover, focus hover?
Can you see the compiled CSS like in your editor, or is it kind of hidden in some weird? It's probably.
Oh, okay.
It's probably just a big inline style block at the top of the thing, right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's gonna be kind of impossible to see because it's probably gonna get cut off.
Yeah, I guess it's this one. No, I don't know. I have no idea where it is.
No, I think it just doesn't even preview it because it's too long.
Yeah.
If you use DevTools to select like that chit chat heading, so we can look at the styles in the sidebar.
This one, okay.
Yeah. Go one level deeper or 2 levels deeper, maybe.
Okay, on the children here.
And grab it, and then you can see the definition. So actually, force a hover state on the parent. So click
on the parent on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then click the H4 again so we can see the classes. And you'll see, so dot group colon hover space dot group hover text white.
Oh, okay. So but wait, isn't there a what is this the thing here?
So that's just escaping the colon, so you can actually use it in a class name.
Oh, okay. It makes sense.
So you can use this to solve this problem or.
And in this case, yeah. All right, makes sense. But if I get rid of the text here, yeah, I would go like, wouldn't it be better to just put the text here, or the text? Yeah, I get
only
it.
If it was the same color.
Yeah, if it was the same color.
In this case, we've got gray 900 for the heading and 600
so
for
you
the
would have to
text.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So if I wanna. There's a question. If I want to share this and this for both of them, there's no way to tell both of them to have the same thing without moving this to a variable or something, right? I would have to repeat it. So if I later decide to do this yellow, I would have to write yellow here and yellow here, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Claudio is asking, first of all, chill, nice, cool. See, you get tips from this stream, but how does it know to generate it? Does this literally generate one for each and every property similar to MDLG and XL? That's the question in the chat.
It generates a shitload of CSS. Yes.
But then it strips it off if you don't use it, I guess, right?
Why don't I link you to like the compiled version of it on like Unpackage? I'll send this to you on Twitter, and then you can pull it up in the browser if you want, so we can see the full thing.
What is twin.macro? Someone is babbling about this twin macro for a couple of times. Let's see what is twin.macro.
Yeah, I think it's a tool that lets you do some smart things with kind of like type checking your styles or something. Okay. Basically making sure you don't accidentally use classes that don't exist and stuff like that.
Okay, that's cool. Tailwind 1.2 supported. Before, after. Like, I have no bloody idea what is going on here, but it's cool. For people who are using Tailwind, go check that out, twin.macro.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't seen this particular one. I've seen like an older one. But this looks like it's more recently maintained.
Oh, I get what this thing is doing. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense because it's actually, you don't need to purge the classes that you don't use because you actually use it for generating the classes.
Exactly. Yeah. So it basically is doing a CSS and JS implementation of Tailwind. So their code here is, they're probably basically re-implementing Tailwind from scratch. A lot of it. So they have to kind of manually keep it in sync with any other changes that we make.
Okay.
But it gives you that same sort of authoring workflow without having to do purge CSS because it's just generating the styles on demand. So this would probably be not a bad idea to use if you were using a React app. And I would love to do like something that's like official and maintained by us, so people don't have to like worry about us changing something and them having to wait for another package to get updated. Because it's just a third-party thing. Because I think this is like a really good. If you're already comfortable with using CSS and JS anyways, and you're willing to accept like any of the trade-offs that come with that, then there's a lot of benefits to it, right?
Yeah.
So this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Can you check this? Tailwind in JS. Oh my god, we're going down that path, huh? All right, let's see. Tailwind in JS. CSS in JS library for Tailwind JS. Okay, well, actually, I think there is a better implementation called Classy UI. It's made by Christian Alfoni, which is the creator of Cerebral and Overmind, so he knows a couple of things about React and shit. And I think this is properly TypeScript typed, so I would experiment with this if I'm a React user. I'm not sure, like, because I haven't explored any of these packages. I'm not sure if this is actually using Tailwind under the hood. I'm not sure. It might just work similar to Tailwind, but it's still using like class names and compose and a bunch of utility. Like, probably everyone got inspired by this, and now everyone is trying to build on top of it or something similar or something more typed and so on and so forth. But yeah, we can drop this. I would like to learn more like vanilla Tailwind things before going to. You wanted to send me some link, right?
I send you a link on Twitter to like the compiled version of Tailwind, so you can look at what is actually generated, which is a monstrosity of styles, right?
But this is the entire like Tailwind library, basically.
Yeah, this is what's enabled by default. So
okay, if someone uses this directly without post CSS and stuff, they're fucked because they're going to include 7 megabytes of CSS, right?
Well, you know what? It's not as bad as you think. If you open like DevTools and refresh this page so you can look at the network tab and see what's actually transferred over the wire.
I would have to do that in a different way. So I would have to open it here so I can get the DevTools, and we can actually bookmark this. So I'm going to say Tailwind source and just keep it here. And now let's see.
So look at the network tab and just go to all so we can see this file actually come through.
Yeah, okay.
And do like a hard refresh on it. So
wait.
So it should just be, well, I don't know what it is in Sizzy. Command Shift or disable cache. Just check disable cache and then refresh it.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how to use my own tool. Isn't that great? Yeah, it's okay. It's just 50 kilobytes. That's nothing.
That's after Brotli compression, right? Because so it's a meg before compression, but it's only 50 kilobytes compressed, which is smaller than most companies' actual CSS files. So it is still big, but it's not that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because the class names are designed to be very compressible. So if you look at like, see how we do like hover : BG Blue 500, the BG Blue 500, that chunk is not broken up. It's repeated, right? The compression algorithm can strip that out really easily. If you compare that to how Bootstrap does responsive classes, where it's like call 6, call SM6, call MD6, they're sticking the media query right in the middle, which means you can't compress it as well. So there's been some considerations like that for performance reasons included when we're trying to come up with naming conventions and stuff like that too. Trying to think if there's any other especially interesting stuff to get into.
I'm just looking at the chat. Classy UI started as just re-implementing Tailwind, but now it's more general. Doesn't really do any Tailwind specifically. Okay, that's good to know. Brad Frost is shaking in his grave. What? Yeah, I guess. All right. Like when I said that 50 kilobytes is not much, people are like, oh my God, our pages have to be like 2 kilobytes. No, as Adam said, most companies CSS is actually going to be a huge pile of mess that might be even bigger than using
way bigger
Tailwind.
Now that's not saying, again, if you build a Tailwind site properly, it's going to be way smaller. Like if a good example of a Tailwind site is if you go to send.firefox.com.
Send.firefox.com.
This is like their file sharing tool.
Yeah.
That they launched like last year, I think, or the year before. So this is all built with Tailwind.
Oh,
and if you inspect the dev tools for this, to see like what's transferred over the network.
I'm trying to find like what Jesus Christ. There you go. So okay, let's see network. Yeah.
And look for the CSS file.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty small.
Where is it?
I don't know. Is it inter CSS or is it the app
No,
CSS?
that's the font. So it's this
Okay.
one. But I don't see the.
Yeah, I don't see it
It
too.
said something about a service. What's the service in the size thing? See the size column? It says like service dot
okay.
dot dot. What's that?
Service
even mean?
worker.
Oh, is there any way to like get it without there being a service worker?
I think so. In where the fuck was that? Where did we we constantly move things around, and I'm lost in my own code. Is it in storage? Where the fuck did we put that? Refreshing the cache. I have no idea, to be honest with you. Custom online. Like, I'm pissed right now. Where did we put the fucking thing?
I can tell you on my computer, it's 5.7 kilobytes.
Yeah, I think that would save us time. I cannot even navigate CZ. Anyway. Application tapping on the DevTools. But we actually added something like this, so you don't have to do it. Anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, so it's very small when you actually follow the best practices and unused styles and stuff like that. So maybe it'd be cool to look at how we do like transforms. We looked at transitions a little bit, but transforms are kind of a cool one.
And animations would be the two last things that we could cover.
We don't have anything built in for like infinite animations like spinners or anything like that. That's on the roadmap, but there's nothing in core yet. We have the transitions for like when you hover on something, it can like scale, but it'd be fun. Let's make this card like grow on hover or something.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's add a class to the div on line 7.
Oh, before we do that, just hold your thoughts. Sorry for interrupting you. Is there an easy way to disable all the hovers on mobile? Because right now, like I have this cursor, so it's gonna work. But if I switch to the actual like touch cursor, when I click this, I'm gonna get the hover on mobile.
Sure.
Is there a Tailwind way to actually say, when you're on mobile, never give me this hover thing. You just give me the click active, whatever it's called.
The easiest way I can think to do that would be to just stick SM : in front of the hover thing. Now this is going to be based on the viewport size, not based on the user agent or any of that, or like a touch media query. We could add that. Like, how do you do that in
I usually don't, so I'm wondering what would be the most like CSS vanilla CSS way of actually saying, when you're on mobile, ignore all the hovers.
Okay, so there's like the media hover thing.
Media hover.
I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So we could like do something in our Tailwind config to create like a new breakpoint that really just represents the non. Yeah, this will be actually kind of fun. Open up your Tailwind config file.
Tailwind config, okay.
And under extend, add a key called screens. And make this an object. And let's give it a key of touch. So we'll create like a special touch screen.
Okay.
And then let's go to the Tailwind docs and learn how to make a custom kind of fancy media query.
Fancy media query.
I can't remember how to do it because I literally never do it. So if you go to customization breakpoints, if you just hit /, you can just do like a search.
Oh, fancy. Okay, or
the search is pretty good. It uses like the Algolia doc search. So just search like breakpoints. And
this one?
Go to that one.
The top one. Okay.
So let's scroll down a little bit until we see the raw
custom
option,
media
I
queries.
think is
this, right?
It's kind of what we want to do. So, yep. So let's make touch an object that has a key called raw.
Okay, like this. All right, I can just be lazy. All right, and
then where it says orientation portrait, make that hover none.
Hover none, like this?
Yeah, so this is basically going to say, create a custom screen that targets any devices that don't support hover. So who knows how many browsers actually support this? We'll see what happens here. Did we screw something up?
I think I started typing something somewhere. Unexpected
it's complaining about the config file.
Yeah, but I don't think this is... Wait, let me just reload this process.
Oh, you're
starting development server. Yeah. Okay, I think it should be fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
So what do I
Okay,
do
so
with
let's
this
go-
touch
let's-
thing now? What does this
Okay,
give
so
me?
now that's given us a new like media query prefix.
Oh, so
if
it's like
you-
I'm doing
if you-
MD and LG and shit. I can do touch and something.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think if you did like, I'm not sure exactly. Let's reverse this. Let's, instead of making it like, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So right now, what this is letting us do is do things that only work on mobile, right? So one way to prove this is if you go to the app.js file.
App.js. All right.
Yeah. And let's just add like touch : on like the parent. Just say like touch : BG red 500 or something. So if the browser doesn't support hover, it should in theory be red right now.
Okay. Wait, I think these devices like the MacBook Air and stuff, like they shouldn't even get, like when I click here, I get this cursor, but when I click here, I'm going to keep using this. But I'm not really sure if we can simulate this in CZ. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, so I might have to use like a real phone or something to see if that's working.
Yeah.
So if so, then we're not going to be able to do anything interesting for people watching.
Yeah. But this is the
But
way
in,
you would...
in general, you can create that. That basically just creates like another media query, just like small, medium, large, whatever, that you can use for things. So we could create the opposite of this if we wanted, like a no touch that had hover, hover instead of hover none. And then we could do stuff like no dash touch : hover : BG blue 500. So we'd only add the hover styles on devices that support hover. It's kind of convoluted, but this is just me trying to figure out how you could do it off the top of my head.
Yeah. Because when I researched this the last time, there are too many solutions. Someone is suggesting to strip the styles off using JavaScript or whatever, or just using a JavaScript way of blocking the hovers. So if there's not a way, like a universal way, we can just skip this and move on.
Sure.
It's
I think this is an interesting experiment, but that's as far as I've thought it through. Let's try doing some of this transition stuff. So let's add a class called transform, which all that does is like enable transforms.
Okay.
Because the way we implement transforms is kind of clever to allow you to compose multiple transforms, because in CSS you have to do like there's a transform property, then you have to list all the transforms after that. It's not like you can do like a separate rotate, a separate scale, a separate for us to be able to give you classes for those things, we need to use CSS variables to kind of make it work. So now if you do like space scale dash
you mean scale, just scale.
Space character. Yeah, scale 150, say. That should like blow it up to be bigger.
Big. Okay.
And then you could also say like rotate 90, and that'll rotate at 90 degrees.
Wow, that's cool.
So you can just kind of combine them this way, right?
Yeah. And now
say
I
like,
can just
say if
do
we
the
wanted
both...
to just put those as hover instead of as and now that should just happen on hover. And now if you add the transition class to enable transitions and maybe do like ease in out, then like maybe do like duration 500 or something, so 500. We can kind of watch it happen, then we should be able to see it like So
and
that's
then,
kind of
I would need the hover on this and I would need the hover on that. Cool. If I would like to make this my default transition, I would just do it just like we did the apply thing for the button. Like I can say this trans or default, I don't know, transit. What the fuck would you call this? Like default transition, transition, and then I do apply and just paste these things, right? And then I can.
And then you could just do default transition and the other
default transition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Or you can make like a transition default class or whatever. Yeah. And that would just be your default. You could also just make it like the default for every single element in the whole site, but that'll probably have weird consequences.
Someone is saying that's what I was missing in CZ, a real simulation of touch and no touch. Chrome can simulate touch. Well, actually, we do simulate touch. Like if you click here on the side and you switch your mouse pointer to a touch cursor, it's actually going to simulate touch. But the same thing that you get in Chrome, because CZ is actually simulating Chromium. What we were discussing is it doesn't simulate like the real browser engine of Safari. And there's some CSS queries that are based on a real browser engine. That's what CZ doesn't simulate. But we definitely simulate like a real touch cursor here. So
I think a feature you could add to Sizzy would be that anytime someone buys it, you mail them like an iPhone, an iPad, and an Android phone.
Well, we were thinking of making a companion app. We're thinking of making a companion app. So you actually, if you have like a Android phone lying around and an iPhone and you open CZ on it, so like everything you do here is synchronized. Yeah,
that would be cool.
It's synchronized there. Idea. Yeah.
Then it would be really easy to like just double check it on the real device for any.
Yeah, so it's just like most of the things you can simulate them here, and the rest of it is just literally double checking if things are gonna work. But for most things, you can just do them here.
Yeah.
$5 a month and an iPhone, I'm down. All right, makes sense. Can CZ simulate blind person navigating website? Actually, we're gonna add all of those simulations. I'm not sure if it's gonna be like 100% like you described it, but we're gonna add features for like visually impaired. So you can have like one device that's like super blurry and another device that's with a different focus, and you can see all of these things at once. We're thinking as soon as we wrap up this feature about projects, where you can like navigate between multiple projects, we're gonna work on accessibility, simulation, and so on. So it's gonna be there soon.
Cool.
Are there any student discounts or something for Tailwind UI? Someone is asking.
You can email us at support.
Yeah, just email and yeah.
And
what else did we want to? What else did we want to discuss? We did discuss the transforms. Is that it about transforms, or do we have something else?
Yeah, I think that basically covers it. I mean, there's not really anything. The interesting piece is just the fact that you can sort of combine multiple of them, which was kind of tricky to figure out a good way to do. But other than that, I think like any stuff we haven't covered is mostly just like boring old CSS properties, you know, like setting the line height or, you know, setting Z index or changing the mouse cursor or stuff like that. So I think that basically covers all of the actual interesting features of Tailwind. I think maybe the only other thing would be how to create your own utilities that benefit from Tailwind's features. So if you go to your index.css file, for example,
index CSS, someone is like customizing colors and what sort of plugins do we like? People have way too many questions, and I think we already are over our time that we planned for this.
Okay.
So
if you look at your default transition thing, right now that just creates one class called default transition, right? If you wanted to do like LG : default transition, you don't just get that automatically for free like you do with all of Tailwind's classes. So if you wanted to do that, you would just have to wrap that whole thing in like an @ rule, which is like kind of like a media query where you say @responsive and then nest the whole thing under that.
Wait, so I just do @responsive and just nest this under this?
Yeah, and
it's
now
like
you
writing
have
alien CSS. I have no idea what this does.
So this creates all the different responsive variants of that class. So now you'd be able to do MD default transition, or say you wanted to do it like just on hover, you could do if you do another nested thing, or actually just change it @responsive to @variants.
Oh shit! And you can pass an array here or what?
And just do space, and then it's just like a string, a comma separated list. So you could just say hover, hover, comma, focus, comma, responsive, because the responsive stuff is supported here too. And this will generate all those as well.
I'm wondering how many of your users actually know about this and how many are actually just using Tail. Because people have mentioned in the chat that they learned a lot of things during the stream.
Most people don't know about all the fancy features. Like another one that you can do, for example, is instead of using apply, like say on line 15, where we're using the BG Blue 600 there, we could also just like delete that, or maybe keep it there just like so we can compare. And on a new line underneath that, just add a regular background color property. So yeah, background color. And then if you wanted to reference like a value from Tailwind, you could use this custom function called theme. So you can just type theme. It's not @theme though. This is just like it's like a CSS variables type looking thing, but really it's done statically at build time.
Where are these features coming from? Is this post CSS stuff?
This is all the custom post CSS
plugin stuff. Oh, so the Tailwind plugin for post CSS is allowing you to do this.
It's providing all of these features.
Okay,
that's cool. Right.
Okay.
So then in quotes, you would just say colors.blue.600. And this just like looks up that color from like your theme. And it's looking it up from Tailwind's default theme because we're just relying on the defaults.
Yeah.
But if you look at like, I'll give you a link to the to the theme file so you can see what it looks like. Where is this? Okay, so here's another unpackaged link that I'll send you on the Twitters. So if you pull that up in the browser, you can sort of see like basically the design system, I guess, that Tailwind uses by default. So there's like all the screen sizes, there's all the colors.
Okay.
So this is what you're doing lookups into when you use that theme function.
Yeah. So you can reference any value here. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any other cool stuff that we're not thinking about?
How about, like, I have an idea, because we are actually gonna do the same thing with Nether and everyone else. We wanted to keep the streams short because not everyone wants to sit down and listen to anyone for more than 2 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think what we can do is we can just schedule another one for another Friday where we just move on from this point, because as people could see in my face, like, I'm super mind blown. I'm like, how far can this go? And with what it can be combined, and how we didn't even start with Tailwind UI and converting it into React and so on and so forth. Like, it's way too many questions that I have. So I think we can schedule whenever you're available for another Friday, another stream, where we move on from this point onwards. And
sounds good.
One more time in here, I'm going to put twitter.com/AdamWathan. I don't know if your DMs are open. Mine are not, because they were a mess for me.
Yeah.
So I guess people can email you or something if they have a lot of questions. Because if we start asking questions now, this stream is going to last forever.
Yeah. Another good place is, like, we have the Tailwind Discord server. So if you have questions that I might not answer you fast enough, but other people might be able to help too. Yeah,
someone from the community and stuff. But we'll make sure, like, if Adam is down to set up another stream sometime soon. And maybe like have an idea in mind that we can actually build, or a landing page for something where I'm just keep building and building.
Yeah.
I think right now we got stuck with a lot of implementation details, but now when I know how it works, we can have a second stream where we're actually building more things with React and Tailwind.
Sounds good.
You can check out tailwindui.com here, and you can check out Tailwind CSS at tailwindcss.com if you haven't used it before. And let me tell you something. Rebuild CZ website in Tailwind, or like I have React Academy to rebuild, so maybe we can. Anyway, we'll see. I saw a lot of comments in the chat that went like, "Oh, this is way too many class names. I don't like it. It's messy and so on." Trust me, when you get to this kind of way of thinking, where you get the ease of like not naming things, it's 100% worth it. So lately, I'm using Chakra, which is like a React implementation of components, but it's using something similar, like the Tailwind mentality. I haven't written like one line of custom CSS, and I guess you would have to do the same thing with Tailwind. Like, when you remove the burden of thinking of a class name, then when you're like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. So make sure that you, even if you haven't tested this before, like, make sure you give it a chance and don't like just dismiss it based on the docs. Oh, it's too many class names.
It's impossible to look at it and think it's a good idea. Even I hated it when I saw other libraries that were similar. Right? It looks like a terrible, ugly, awful, stupid way to build websites.
But just like React,
and then when you actually try it, you're like, wait a minute, I can't believe how easy this is. And I've never seen a tool where people where people hate it so much before they try it, and then love it so much after they try it, like so extreme.
Maybe JSX, but I'm not sure. I think this is one level above
possibly JSX.
But they're similar. You look at it, you're like, what the shit? No one's going to write this ever. And then you test it. It's like, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
just try it. Just force yourself to actually try it. And if you still hate it, that's fine too.
Absolutely. I would say the same thing for CZ, which you should definitely check out. And we actually had a chat with Adam before this. Is a lot of people think that CZ is just the responsive design browser, just for responsive design, but we actually have like shit ton of features, including like a full mode. If you want a full mode, just like in Google Chrome, you can have the full mode. But we're constantly adding like a lot of plugins, like for debugging styles and, I don't know, enabling custom Google fonts. And the new thing that we're adding for like projects is gonna be insane. So all of your projects are gonna live here. You can easily open them in Editor, open them in Terminal, open them in Finder, navigate to a project, bookmarks, blah, blah, blah. So just if you haven't seen it before, because people ask a lot of questions about what is that thing on the left, just go to cz.co to check CZ out. If you have any ideas for features and stuff, just let me know on Twitter. Someone is asking about the best way to learn Tailwind. So that's going to be the last question that we actually answer. What is the best way? I guess your course.
So two ways. Yeah, there's the docs if you like to read.
Yeah.
But there's also a link in the docs on the sidebar that says screencasts that just goes to a big set of screencasts. There's still more I want to record eventually, but there's quite a few there now that will help you get started, where it shows you how to get everything set up, explains all the features, and then we just start kind of building kind of common UI patterns using Tailwind. So you'll learn a lot about how Tailwind works, and also you'll probably learn how to just do some things with CSS that you might not have known before, and learn a little bit about design too.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to do that.
So you have the link in the chat, tailwindcss.com/screencasts. You have all the other links. The best way to watch Nathan build a clone on YouTube. All right. I pasted Adam's Twitter handle. Mine is the Kitze. Make sure to follow this Twitch channel because we're going to have another conversation with Adam. We're going to have more conversations. I'm going to try to do this like a Friday thing where someone is teaching me something and I'm a complete noob at it and we're learning together. Hopefully you like the concept. If you like it, make sure to follow the Twitch channel. I guess that's it for me. Adam, if you don't have something to add, we can wrap this up, I guess.
No, that's everything. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's fun.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And I will see you during my stream tomorrow, I guess. I'll stream some gaming or something. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.